am Valerie Lockhart. I am the Communications Director for Ignite Minnesota. I'm also the founder and Executive Director of the Minnesota Women in Tech. And today we have with us Dr. Milena Higgins, who is one of my Minnesota Women in Tech members. And we met through those channels and through trainings that we've done together and different events throughout the year. So I just want to welcome you all here to learn from Milena, and I'm excited to hand things over and have her share with us. So thank you all.
Great, thanks Valerie. Hi everyone, I'm Milena Higgins. I am here today to talk to you about data-driven decision making. So let me start just by telling you a little bit about me before we dive into the topic. So I'm a physicist by training, but I've worked in the legal industry my whole career. And in that career over time, I've worked with data just about in every job I've had. Today, I'm the director of IT at a small legal services company in Mendota Heights, Minnesota, which is just south of St. Paul. And in my previous two roles, I was, in my immediately previous role before this one, I was the chief technology officer for a small legal tech startup in the Twin Cities called Cloud Court. And before that, I was the COO at Black Hills AI, which is a patent docketing automation company. And that's the place where I really flexed my data analytics muscle, and I really dove deep into this area, and I learned a lot from that job. And then I used that knowledge in my CTO role, and then I use it today in my director of IT role at my current company. So that's a little bit about me. Let's just dive in.
I will say Milena is open to questions. So as we go through here, if you have questions that come up, please either throw them in the chat and I will get her attention, or just come off mute and ask your question. So don't wait till the end. If something comes up, just ask.
Thank you, Val. So data-driven decisions, what are they? Why do we care? And how do we do it? So relying on hard data, like customer feedback or sales numbers or analytics from your website, is what data-driven decisions are about. It's relying on actual hard data as opposed to just going on your intuition or your gut feeling or some knowledge from a previous situation or whatever. So that's the what. Why is there's research that shows that companies, and this says startups, and I'll explain why in a minute. The research shows that those who use data effectively are significantly more likely to outperform their competitors who don't. So that's reason enough to kind of learn about this topic and pay attention. So I'm happy you're all here doing that. And then how? The beginning is to start with clear and measurable goals so you can start gathering that data. And how do you do that? Is by setting some business objectives where you define clearly what you want to measure and what you want to increase or improve, like increase your bookings or improve customer satisfaction or boost social media presence or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in your business. And then one of these acronyms that people like to use is setting SMART goals. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And I've really I've learned to use this, and if I see people setting goals that don't have these, I will try to help them to rephrase their goals in a way that follows this SMART guideline, because I've found that when you do that, it really is so much easier to know when you've met your goal and what you're measuring, and when to know that you're done, that you got there. Um, have you all heard of these SMART goals before? Is this old territory? Okay, awesome. I see some head nods. Okay, so where do you start as a entrepreneur or business owner? You know, where, if you've never done this before, where do you start? We are living in the age of AI, and everyone in this room, I'm sure, has heard of ChatGPT, and hopefully you've played around with it and have used it. So I actually will tell you that you should start there. Start with your favorite large language model. If you're, I've only listed 3 here, but there's many more. If you're using Google, you might use Gemini, use ChatGPT if you're familiar with that. I like to use Perplexity because Perplexity gives me citations. And in my work world, I am a Microsoft organization, so I use Copilot. And I'm serious. This is where I started. That slide that I just showed, that was one of these. I think it probably was Perplexity because that's my go-to. I typed in a prompt. I'm a first-time entrepreneur, and I think I used photography as a example because I know Valerie does photography as one of her hobbies. And I said, I want to learn how to make data-driven decisions. Where should I start? That's literally what I said to it. And it gave me that content that I just went over. And so I feel like large language models do a pretty good job giving you and teaching you kind of the overview of where to start on a topic that you don't know very much about. I use it in my day-to-day IT job. When there's some IT issue that I've never dealt with before, I literally will go to Copilot and ask it, this is what I'm trying to deal with. Where do I start? And it doesn't, I mean, yes, it gets things wrong sometimes, but 9 times out of 10, it's great. It's a great starting point. So I encourage you to use it if you are not using it already, and just start asking it to help you. So let's just for fun play around with that. So I gave that prompt that I just mentioned to these 3 systems: Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Copilot. And I want to show you the answers aren't identical, but they're pretty close, all 3 of them. So here is, sorry, my people icons are covering up which this is. I think this is Perplexity. So you can see the prompt, and you can see what it said. Understand the value of data-driven decision making. Start with clear, measurable goals. Collect relevant data. Analyze the data. And I'm skimming through, obviously, not going deep. But it's a great overview of this topic that we're going to talk about today. So if I go back, see if I can navigate back to my slide deck. I'm there, except my people are covering up where I need to see. Just bear with me while I move things around. So here's that again. And let's try ChatGPT just to see what that does. And I will give you all a link to this presentation. You'll have all these prompts if you want them. So here's ChatGPT. Same prompt. Hopefully you can see this through my little people icons because they're covering up part of my screen. Understand what data-driven means. Start with the right metrics, and it gives you examples of what kind of metrics. Use basic tools to capture the data, analyze and look for trends, and make small experiments. Learn basic analytics. It literally guides you through the journey of what to do to make data-driven decisions. And if any of you are curious, like literally my brain starts going when I'm learning something new, and I start just asking follow-up questions, and I start going deeper on things. I don't know that we necessarily want to take the time right now, but you kind of get the idea, right? These are tools that, and I'm using free versions of these, by the way. So you can pay and you can get more beefier models and some extra features. But the ones that I'm showing you today are free tools that you all can get access to. Let me just, for good measure and to not play favorites, show Copilot just to round out the group. This one is much shorter and it's sort of more succinct. It just gives you the high level overview, right? Identify key metrics, collect data, analyze trends, experiment and optimize, use financial data, and then leverage AI and automation. And then if you wanted follow-ups, you would talk to it and give it more questions.
One question I do have for you, Milena.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ensure that the data that you're getting is like kind of more accurate and unbiased? And like, is that
Great
kind of why you
question.
use Perplexity, because it comes with the sources?
Yeah, that's actually why I like Perplexity. Let me jump back to that one and I'll show you what that looks like. So for example, here, even just where I am, analyze and interpret data, each item has these citations after it, and I can literally click into these resources, and they're also listed at the end. And you can go and read those blog post articles, whatever they are, and you can see where it's getting those concepts, and you can see where those ideas come from. So you can basically verify the source of that statement. And because it's a language model, it's actually really good at analyzing and interpreting words. We're going to get to the math part of it later. It's not so good at that. But language and words, it's really good at, because it's trained on just tons and tons of written language. So yeah, that's trust but verify is a thing you'll hear a lot when people talk about using these Gen AI tools. You want to make sure that it's not hallucinating and making stuff up, because it's also really good at that. It will sound very, very confident, but it's going to make stuff up. So let's just go back to this. Let's see if I can figure out to go full screen again, and let's continue. So here's some examples. I think I used one of those tools and I asked it to give me some examples of what kind of thing I might want to use data-driven decisions in. And I don't know, maybe we should go quickly because we have a small group and see what kind of businesses you guys are running, because maybe one of these resonates with you. And if not, maybe you can give us an example that does resonate. We can go deeper on that. But here's 8 examples that you could use data-driven decision making for. Inventory management and demand forecasting. I think, Val, I had asked you for some examples and you gave me one that was along those lines. Personalized marketing campaigns for your business, website A/B testing. I dove deeper into that one too when I was doing my prep work for this talk. Customer feedback analysis to improve customer experience is another good one. Real-time stock replenishment, employee performance and training. You can imagine if you have a business that does deliveries or any kind of travel, you can do route optimization. And then my world, software development and just IT product development based on customer feedback and data is a great example. Here is a real example that I pulled and anonymized a little bit from. This is from my legal tech startup. We literally did this example. This is not real data in the sense that the numbers that you see don't represent those customer segments giving us the data, but this is how we used, we gathered in a room, a whole bunch of us, and we tried to brainstorm. The goal was to simplify our product line because we were a tiny team. There were like 3 full-time employees at the time and a couple of part-time people who had full-time day jobs, but they helped us on the side. we had way too many ideas and way too many products for our small team to manage. So we needed to focus, and we wanted to decide, okay, what product do we focus on? And so we went through this exercise where we identified our customer segments. And so you can see those listed: court reporting agencies, AmLaws, American Law 100, small firms, Fortune 500 corporations, etc., on the left. And then we went through for each product that we had, we identified how important is this product to this customer segment. And we scored it very intentionally using these funny numbers of 1, 0, 1, 3, and 10. I had learned this as a technique when I was doing my management of technology training, that by using those numbers, you're kind of naturally skewing in a way that gives the focus where the oomph is really needed. So, and you see this by me analyzing the data and then visualizing it by using those color-coded shades of orange. So you can see that product A was really important to small firms. That's where the 10 got, it got the score of 10. Somewhat important to insurance companies and plaintiff firms, and not very important to the other segments. And then product B didn't get any 10s at all. Product C got a 10 in the court reporting space. And then product D got 2 10s in the Fortune 500 corporations and then in insurance companies. So because we wanted to simplify and make our product line as small so we could focus, we literally just focused on product D. We put all the other products on the shelf for later, and we focused on product D. That was the business decision that we made, given this data and kind of how it was visualized. So that's a real life example of using data to drive a business decision.
Okay, I just have to say how genius that 0, 1, 3, 10 is, because
isn't it cool?
It is really cool, because like you find that most people tend to like hover in the middle, which gives you no real input. So it kind of forces them to like make a decision one way or the other. I love that.
Let me go back, Val, because you reminded me of something that I might mention later. But if you're ever doing surveys of anything and you're giving people, like you give your Google star review or Amazon star review, or the stars are 1 to 5. If you're doing that survey in the Midwest, which is where we are, Midwesterners tend to go very middle of the road. So in the Midwest, people are very likely just to choose a 3 when the scale is 1 to 5. So another pro tip is, if you're doing a survey of people in the Midwest, do not give them a middle number ever. When I do it, I give them, instead of 5 stars, I will give them 4 stars. So they have to pick either a 2 or a 3 if they want to go middle of the road. So just like Val said, it forces you to pick a side. Okay, so let's keep going, because now that we know that we can make data-driven decision, let's talk about how do you collect this data, because where do you even start if you've never done any of it before? So depending on what your business is and what kind of tools you use, you might already be able to tap into those resources. So if you have a client management tool like a CRM, whether that's HubSpot or Salesforce or Honeybook, which I haven't heard of, but because I was using photography as my example, Honeybook apparently is big in the photography business. You might already have access to data from those tools. If any of you are doing any kind of marketing online, you probably are using Google Analytics, and that also has a ton of data that you could potentially tap into. Social media insights, Instagram, Facebook, all of those tools have analytics, and then you can also we can talk about how to leverage on, especially on those tools where there's a lot of commenting. You can use sentiment analysis to give you insights into whether people are, you know, favorable, unfavorable, or neutral to whatever the question is, whether it's your product or your look and feel of your new website or whatever it is. And then also your sales and booking records. Just about any business, that's the baseline, right? You're going to always have sales and booking records of whatever you're selling. So those are just some starting examples of what kind of data you can start collecting. And if you're not collecting it yet, think back to what I said a few slides ago. When you ask that initial question, like, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And don't try to boil the ocean. Just pick something that is achievable, right? Smart, achievable, and reasonable. And then start focusing on the data that would be along the lines of whatever that thing is. One thing I will have to tell you, in the data science community, there's a phrase that garbage in is garbage out. So you have to make sure that your data is clean, because if you start with messy data or dirty data, your results are not going to be great. So this is a pretty slide to show you. Basically, this is an example of messy data. And maybe I'll pause here and just see if you guys can spot where the messiness might be coming from. So I don't know if you want to type it in chat, Val, and you can read, but there's some examples here of where the data is not quite perfect.
So we have the parentheses of moved in the field.
Yep.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. The date of births are inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I see like email, com. It's not
Yep,
email.com.
Yep, instead of .com. Yep, the one right above it has 2 @ signs and 2 dots. Yep, so you can
Lots of
see
garbage.
exactly. You can see how the data, even the empty fields, right? That is missing data. So if you have your goal in mind and you're designing your data collection effort, keep this in mind. Keep in mind that you want to, if you can help it in any way, help people put the data in the correct format. So if you want your date formatted like that first one where it says 1/12/1980, there's things you can do to help people format it that way. And I think if I have some tips here. So you guys found most of them. I don't show the duplicate, but for example, if someone has a John Smith and John is spelled the more traditional way, John, and someone else spells it just Jon, it might be the same person and they just misspelled his name. My name gets misspelled all the time. And then, yeah, you've already pointed out inconsistent formats with the dates and the phone numbers, the moved address, and then the invalid, like we have the number in the name field. So you guys caught most of these. Awesome. Okay, so the next thing, once you've collected your data and you've cleaned your data, if some of it was messy, because it always will be, it will never be perfect, but you want to minimize the cleanup. Then what you do is you analyze and interpret that data. So just like the example I showed, visualizing it is one way to do it. So in the example I showed, I simply color coded the cells that had the highest number in a darker orange, and then it just gradually, the opacity of the orange color just decreased down to 0, or it was just white. So that is a very simple way to do it. And if you use Excel or Google Sheets, If you've never done it in those tools, just go to your ChatGPT or Copilot or Perplexity and ask how to do it, and it will literally guide you how to make that happen. So I am a big believer that you should start simple. So use Excel, use Google Sheets, use whatever your typical tool is, and start there. And once you kind of have a system that you like, then you can start moving to more powerful tools like Power BI or Tableau, where that is it's capable of handling a lot more data, but it's also, it takes a little bit more to set up and might cost money, whereas Google Sheets might not cost as much money. And then once you've visualized that data in a way that makes sense for whatever question you're asking, then you can look for those actionable insights. So here I was looking for which products to keep, and we kept product D because that one had 2 10s. Maybe if my team was bigger, we could have kept products A, C, and D and just put product B on the shelf, or just chucked it all together because it seems like it's not really important to anybody. So you can make different decisions depending on what your business is and what your goals are. And here's some examples of some other data that you might look at. What marketing channels bring in the most clients? What times of the year are the busiest for my business? Or what services are most popular, right? So there's all kinds of questions you can ask. If you want to go deeper, if you've not explored this yet, there's this hidden just trove of cool stuff people have built using ChatGPT, and they're called custom GPTs. So if you go, if you go to ChatGPT and you look on the left-hand side, you'll see this Explore GPTs button. And if you've never looked there, just take 10, 15 minutes one day to just play around. It's really amazing what people have done. You can search. So I went to ChatGPT and I clicked on Explore GPTs and I looked for customer segmentation, just because that is an example that I'm using in this presentation. And it gave me a handful of GPTs, which just means they're pre-trained models that are focused on customer segmentation. They've been trained with data that is just specifically that, so they can do that job that much better than just a general GPT like the Chat GPT. So think of it as just a more focused Chat GPT. Let's just look at it briefly, and then I have a couple of slides with the data that it gave me. So I think I used it twice. I might just scroll all the way up. I used the example of my old startup. So I asked it to analyze cloudcourtinc.com. You literally just plug in a website and it will go through and it will tell you, for that business, here's the customer segments. So you can see the segments that might align with that table that I showed. This is what it gave back: large law firms, and then it gives you all kinds of information about that customer segment: demographics, psychographics, media habits, even a path to purchase and a customer journey. It's amazing the kind of information you can get with something that's free. So here's segment 2, corporate legal departments. And I'm sorry, this is boring legal stuff, but it's what I know. So segment 3, government agencies, insurance and legal operations teams, etc. I'm just going to scroll down to the next one, because then I said, okay, let's do something more familiar to people than legal tech. So I happened to discover this flower shop near where I live. It's a flower shop called Hazel and Goose in White Bear Lake. So I typed in, analyze this website. And it gave me, and let me just now switch back to my slides because I pulled this data into the next couple of slides. It gave me amazing customer segments for this flower shop that's near me, you have 4 of them: the local lifestyle enthusiast, residents of White Bear Lake and surrounding areas who value locally sourced, sustainable products and seek to support community-based businesses. I mean, that's why I went there and bought something. Then you have your event planners, weddings, obviously, the common thing you think about for flowers, but then also other events. Creative hobbyists, people who just enjoy making creative things with flowers, and then gift givers. So really, it analyzed that website and it came up with those 4 customer segments. And then it also gave the profiles of each segment. So I just give you examples of the kind of data you can get using these custom GPTs. That's just what, like, I'm just scratching the surface. But if I was starting a new business and I wanted to start a flower shop, I would just look at the competitors, right? Analyze their customer segments, and then I'd know, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to be just like them, or do I want to be slightly different and pick different segments? Or maybe I want to be very niche and focus on just 1 or 2 of these segments and ignore the rest. So you can gain some competitive intelligence really quickly with these tools. I just find that amazing. So once you collect your data, what do when you have that data in front of you? You basically take action. You do something. You change something. So for my, I'm going back to my Cloud Court example where we had those 4 products, and then we put 3 of them on the shelf, and we just focused on the one primary product. We changed it, and then we started measuring, and then you just iterate, rinse and repeat. You keep measuring, and if things go in the direction you want, then you set new goals, right? And if your sales go up, then you make the next goal of what your goal is, whether that's sales or something else. The other thing I want to talk about is building a data first mindset. So just and I'm such a data geek that, like, this feels second nature to me, but I have to remind myself not everyone's like me. My mom, for example, is almost the polar opposite. So she does not think like me. Make looking at data a regular part of your business routine, and maybe it comes naturally to you, just like it comes to me, and it's fun and you enjoy it. But maybe it's not, so you have to make it be part of whatever process you're doing. Maybe it's like a weekly thing you look at, and you can make it simple. You can make it pretty if colors get you excited, make it cool looking. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It could literally be an Excel spreadsheet. We had this scorecard that I created at Cloud Court that we looked at every week as a team, and it was literally just numbers on a screen, but color coded, so each of us could kind of know what area we were responsible for. But making that a regular part of your business routine it gets you in that mindset to always think about the data and how you use that to support your business decisions. And so that kind of gets to number 2 here, using data to back up your decisions about marketing, pricing, client services, whatever other components of your business. Try to find that data that supports what you're doing, and don't boil the ocean. Just start somewhere and keep expanding as you learn. And the third one is really what guides me a lot, is just staying curious and asking questions. This is where you can leverage those AI tools, right? If you don't know something and you're just curious, you just wonder, hey, I wonder what would happen if I tried X. Just go learn about it, and that's how you can continue building those data muscles and continue that learning.
Can I
So
ask a
that,
question before you go into key
please,
takeaways?
please.
How do you balance the difference between what the data is saying and what your gut is
Mm.
saying? Like how
Mm.
much weight do you give to each of those things? Or have you found a way that you can like incorporate your gut feelings into what the data is saying?
That's a great question. It's hard sometimes when your gut is telling you one thing and the data tells you something different. Um, and I'm a scientist by training, so I trust the data. Uh, and sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes your gut is just like, well, I thought that this product would do well in this market, and we're learning that the market just doesn't exist. These people don't care. Yeah, we built a cool tool, but nobody wants to buy it. It's sometimes hard to swallow, but the balance is in knowing that you've set up your data collection in a reasonable way. Like you didn't cut corners. You have to kind of think through, you know, I asked myself, did I fail at capturing all the data, or is this really it? Did I do it correctly and I was just wrong? So you kind of have to tease that out. But yeah, it's a lot of times the data will, like, I find that oftentimes your gut is actually pretty close to correct. It might be slightly, off to the side, but it's generally directionally correct. It's rare that it's completely in the opposite direction. But yeah, there are tensions.
And that might just be a situation where it's like so close to you that you can't see outside of it, and like that your
Yeah,
own love of it is clouding judgment.
it could
So
be. It could
yeah.
be. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to maybe step step away or look at it from a different perspective to kind of see the point of view of what the data's telling you.
Well,
And I
and
don't,
personally, that's what I have found AI to be so helpful for, is really
mm,
like that different perspective and like what are the things that I'm missing? So here's my ideas. What am
yes,
I missing from this, or what am I not thinking of? It can be very helpful for brainstorming in those ways.
that's great, Val. I actually, yeah, I hear, I don't do this often enough when I'm prompting the AIs, is to ask that question of what am I missing, and ask me questions until you're sure that your answers, you're confident about your answers. I know some people like to put that at the end of their prompts. It's a great way to use the LLMs to tell you what how you might be biased in your own thinking and your own perspective. All right, let's go to the key takeaways, and then we can wrap up and get some more questions. So I really kind of just focus these on the basics, and you have the data side on the left and the LLM side on the right. So I talked about setting SMART goals where they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Important. The time bound piece is important because if it's open ended, you never know when you're done. And start collecting that data, as simple as it might be. Like, even if you're just writing things down on a piece of paper at the beginning, just start somewhere. And then design that system to encourage clean data so that maybe you make, if you're collecting 5 pieces of information and 4 of them you really need, make sure that those are required fields so someone can't just skip over them. And then use data validation when possible. So like those examples of dates entered in 3 different formats, make sure that you do it in a way where people have to enter it consistently. And then on the LLM side, become friends with your large language model. Consider, like, I literally think of Copilot at work as my digital assistant. I am so amazed at how much quicker I can get something accomplished because I have that tool helping me along and just guiding me. And I literally will use those words, guide me in doing X, Y, and Z. And then leverage, we talked about the custom GPTs, so leverage those when appropriate. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's no need for you to build something that might already exist. And then this is the one that I think I alluded to a little bit. You can trust your LLM, trust but verify, but don't trust it because it's a language model. Don't trust it to do your math. It literally hallucinates on the math part. It's not a math model. It's a language model. So it's literally just predicting what word comes after the word that just came before. It's not doing actual math. So those are my key takeaways. Very last one. This comes out of a book I read a few years ago. The author, I should have put the author's name. His name escapes me. So if anyone is curious, but trust only in Yoda, and Yoda stands for your own data. So I had to close with that because I used to tease.
That so much.
I used to tease my CEO at my startup because he would come to me. I was the CTO, right? I was building our tech. He would come to me and say, Milena, we need to build this feature and we need to add this thing. And I would stop and I would say, Michael, is this you wanting that feature or do you have actual customers asking for this thing? So I would tease him and say, show me your data. And I actually have this little Yoda sitting next to me to remind me.
That's so awesome. Question for you. Are you cool with us sharing a copy of the presentation after the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can get you all, I did this in Canva, so I can send everyone a shareable link to the presentation.
If you want to just send that to me, I will make sure everybody that registered gets a copy of that.
Perfect. I will send it.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.